Hello ladies and gentlemen, Teo here, back with more Ever17. It is a little bit apropos, given that, at least where I'm sitting, the date is currently May 1st, 2017. It is the same date that the story starts, so thought that was funny. I, of course, had no idea that was when the story took place when I started the Let's Play. That was completely coincidental, but now we're here. Some poor group of teenagers is in the middle of the ocean and off of Germany or something, trying to escape as we speak. I didn't just play with you, I was also playing with him. Huh? Isn't that right? Coco was asking me. Uh-huh. I might have been watching over Coco for all this time. I've been watching over you. I wanted to get closer to you, too. But it was probably not possible. So, you're the one who told me that you liked me then? Yeah, I suppose I was. Suppose it was. Coco and I looked at each other. We were staring at each other, our eyes filled with passion. This is me, right? I'm Blickwinkle? I don't feel like my eyes are filled with passion. It felt as though my existence would evaporate at any second. I'm feeling pretty existent right now. Like, don't know about the rest of y'all, but like, I don't necessarily feel like I'm gonna evaporate at any second. Like, I guess I could close the window, like the Ever17 window. So in the context of the game, my existence could evaporate at any second. Alright, I'm sold. What's gonna happen to me? All of a sudden, a dark shadow had covered Coco's eyes. Am I going to die? Don't be silly, there's no way you're gonna die. No matter what, I'll save your life, Coco. I won't let you die. Excitedly, I appealed to her. Although she looked to be in some pain, Coco smiled at me happily. My heart seemed that it would surely melt. Definitely not melting. Coco, so that's how it is, okay? We're gonna save you no matter what. So just relax. I want you to rest now. As he was saying this, Takeshi went to close the pod. Wait! What's gonna happen? You're gonna go to sleep for a while, just like a cuddly bear. No! Please, don't leave me. Don't go anywhere. Don't leave me alone. We're not gonna leave you alone, will we? We're just gonna stay right here. You're lying. I don't believe you. Quit being so stubborn. If we leave you like this, you're gonna... No, no, no. I don't want to be all by myself. I'll be too lonely. I'm scared. I'm so scared. Takepyon, will you lie down and sleep next to me? There's no way. This pod is... Takeshi stopped in the middle of what he was saying. I mean, you could get in the pod next to her. He looked up at the ceiling, then to the monitor on the wall, and finally to the pod next to Coco. Alright, how about this then? I'll sleep in the pod next to you. How's that? You won't be lonely anymore, right? Coco looked back and forth between Takeshi and me. She had a worried look on her face, and stared at us with eyes that seemed about to burst into tears. Really? You aren't lying? Of course not. You promise? You won't leave me and go? I wouldn't do that, of course I won't go. Alright then. I trust you, Takepyon. That's a good girl. Takeshi petted Coco's head. Okay, I'm gonna close it now, okay, Coco? Uh-huh. Takeshi turned on the switch. The lid of the pod slowly went down. Hey, before I go to sleep, will you listen to my request? Request? I wasn't talking to you, Takepyon. Coco's eyes were pointed towards me. Me? Yes. Well, I want to see you. What? I want to see you again. I want to see you and talk with you more. Huh? I think that I might just... It's just that Oh, I can't say it. But will you promise me that you and I will see each other again someday? Yes. I'll be waiting. I'll wait for you no matter what. You'll come get me? Promise? Yes, I promise. The space between the lid and the pot itself was almost gone. I could barely see Coco through the narrow slit. Coco faced toward me and whispered one last thing in her tiny voice. Well, good night, brother. Okay, see, now I'm very confused. Like, last time I checked, I didn't have a sister. And, like, none of my siblings had pink hair. And besides the snarky, like, I'm Blickwinkle comments, like, just, like, within the narrative, it doesn't make that much sense for them to be siblings, right? Like, Blickwinkle, like, sort of isn't supposed to exist. Or, like, is supposed to exist. Like, I'm a little bit fuzzy on, like, how Blickwinkle exists within the context of the series. But, like, it doesn't make sense for a 4-dimensional being and a 3-dimensional being to be siblings, right? Like, it doesn't work, I think. Brother? Before I could say anything in reply, the lid had closed. The sound of compressed air filled the room, the low whir of the motor. With a light metallic ring, the pod shut completely. Takeshi pushed another switch attached to the pod's chassis. Chassis? I think it's chassis. The cryogenic suspension function was activated. There were small sounds, as though gas were leaking out. The pod slowly cooled down, humming with a slight vibration. Well then. Hey, Something Winkle, you still there? What is it, Dad? Oh, it's you, Hokuto. You guys are confusing me. You and that Winkle guy are two different people, right? Or are you from the 4th dimension too, Hokuto? No, I'm just borrowing his perspective for now. Really? I mean, I still don't get it all, but I don't suppose it matters. Saying this, Takeshi sank his body into an empty pod. The pod next to Coco's. What? Dad, what are you gonna do? What do you think? There's nothing else I can do, right? Made her a promise, you know. So you're gonna... Yep, that's right. Doesn't look like there's a way to escape, anyway. Just have to wait for the second rescue team to arrive. But it'll just be a waste of energy to wait here doing nothing, so... Might as well get some sleep. Dad, wait a second. No. I'm tired. Really, really tired. Takeshi stretched his arm from where he lay and flicked the switch for both closing the lid and starting the cryogenic suspension at the same time. The lid started to close. Quietly. Steadily. Alright, Hokuto. I'm counting on you. Dad! Oh, hey, one more thing. Quit calling me Dad, will you? Well, I can't help it. I'm your son. No, it's not what I mean. Call me Dad. Why don't you say it a little more elegantly? Call me Father, okay? Father. Yeah, again. You lose a little in translation here. You got it? Hokuto took a deep breath, trying to say something. But before he could say it, the lid of the pod had shut. A familiar hissing sound echoed in the room. The cryogenic suspension had activated. The pod cooled down with small vibrations. Just in case, Hokuto and I checked the monitor. The cryogenic suspension in the two pods was functioning properly. There were no signs of abnormality in the bioscans of Coco and Takeshi. The world of 2017. A laboratory at the bottom of the ocean. All that remained there was a perspective. Hokuto and I started to think. Oh yeah, we gotta let everyone know Coco and Takeshi are here in IBF. I'm not sure whether it was I or Hokuto who thought this. Maybe it's because we had switched places so often that the boundary between Hokuto and myself had started to become very vague. Our consciousness had gotten muddy, tangled, and intertwined. We were close to a state of fusion. Or maybe, we might have been that way ever since the beginning. My thoughts were the same as Hokuto's, and Hokuto's thoughts were the same as mine. Being me and being Hokuto wasn't all that different. We had been one since long ago, and would continue to be one. That thought just went through my mind. But it wasn't the time to be engrossed in such thoughts. Our consciousness flew up to the floating island. A miniature submarine was floating on the ocean surface. Swaying in the waves and being teased along by time, it left a carefree trail in the deep blue ocean. I searched inside of it, but Tsugumi had already disappeared. She must be somewhere on the floating island. I expanded my sight and looked down at the entire artificial island. I saw someone, but it wasn't Tsugumi. It was Yubisei Harukana. Hokuto and I flew down near her side. Walking along with Yubisei Harukana was Pee-Pee. He was soaking wet, which meant that it must have been right after you had picked up Pee-Pee from the ocean surface. She was walking down the trail attended by a few men who seemed to be staff members of Limu. She was walking towards a helicopter. She was probably on her way to a large hospital or something. She looked surprisingly healthy. She was walking steadily without support. Although she seemed in a dark mood, at least her health seemed fine. The antibodies must have worked, just like with Takeshi. Anyway, I needed to tell her what had happened to Takeshi and Coco. You! It was Hokuto who shouted at her. Who is it? Caught off guard, she glanced all around. The staff members darted skeptical looks at her, when she started talking to herself all of a sudden. It's me! Who is this me? There was no way she could have known Hokuto. Hokuto hadn't even been born in this world. And she wouldn't have believed us if we told her we were talking to you from 17 years in the future. This you totally would, though, right? Like, that's sort of the big split between the two yous, is like, this one is like, oh yeah, supernatural shit, I'm totally on board. And the 2034 you is like, no? Like, this is the you that's like totally on board with supernatural bullshit. Like, we could totally tell her we're from 17 years in the future and she'd be on board. Hokuto told her, look, there's something I wanted to tell you. So listen to me carefully. Actually, Hokuto told her that Koko and Takeshi had been left in the laboratory, and that they were under cryogenic suspension in the pods. Oh my god, it can't be. So you have to help them right away, okay? I don't know if you can. Like, you might be supposed to wait 17 years before you help them, just to, like, maintain the whole stable time loop. Are you serious? Totally. Koko and Takeshi weren't on the sub that rescued you, and the only others who were rescued were Tsugumi and Kaburaki. Wow, wow! Pee-pee looked at Hokuto and me and gave a loud bark. Oh, yeah, Pee-pee. Pee-pee had a disc in his mouth, didn't he? Uh-huh, you mean the terabyte disc, right? That's right, Sora's data and her memories are in it. What else, wait a minute. Where on earth are you now? It doesn't really matter. You have to believe me. How am I supposed to do that? What is this? Am I hearing things? No, you're not! Seriously, Takeshi and Koko are... Ow! Pee-pee started barking again. Oh, I know. Pee-pee must have seen it. Pee-pee saw Koko collapse in the hallway. There's gotta be some image data of that saved in Pee-pee's memory. Can you play it back? She dropped her head down as if deep in thought, closed her eyes and massaged her temples with her fingertips. After seeming distressed in this manner for a while, she must have reached a conclusion. You looked up in a different direction and spoke. Alright. I have no idea who you are, but I'll see what I can do. Thank you, Yu. I'm counting on you. About time I get back to where I came from. Where did you come from? You wouldn't believe me, but it's 17 years in the future. Hokuto and I went back to the world of 2034. Surprisingly, the future had been completely altered. Takeshi was there. So was Koko. Wait, that was straightforward. That was, Huh. And here I was, going on about maintaining our stable time loop. Yubisei Harukana was here, as was Yubisei Akikana. Tsugumi was there along with Sarah. Sora was there. Kaburaki was there. And so was Hokuto. They were chatting happily in a circle. I didn't know what had happened, but I was just relieved. The future had been altered. But how did it happen? I suppose Yubisei Harukana had kept her promise with Hokuto, so Koko and Takeshi were rescued immediately afterward. And in this version of history, Takeshi hadn't died 17 years ago, but was still alive and well. So in this world, Tsugumi didn't have to send Hokuto and Sarah to the institution. In this version of the future, Hokuto and Sarah didn't have to be separated. Besides, I understand that the incident in 2034 was planned so that I, Blickwinkle, would come into existence. It was planned to have me descend into this world so that the past would be altered, and that Koko and Takeshi would be saved. But in this history, Koko and Takeshi had already been rescued safely 17 years ago. Wait, is this going to be like a plot point now, the fact that they didn't maintain the stable time loop? Is that going to be a problem? It feels like kind of anticlimactic, right? Like, they just did the whole climax, right? Where, like, Blickwinkle like, goes and saves everyone. It would feel kind of weird to have, like, another rising action after it, just from, like, a meta story standpoint. Therefore, there was no longer any way to grab my attention and make me appear in this world. Oh, okay. So, Yubisei Harukana didn't have to come up with an outrageous plan to trap everyone at Limu, which meant that the incident, starting on May 1st, 2034, hadn't taken place in this history. None of them had been trapped in Limu, which meant that Yubisei Harukana had no reason to lie to Yubisei Akikana. Yubisei Harukana must have told Yubisei Akikana the truth in this history. They were all able to spend their lives peacefully from 2017 until now. They all had lived safely with time passing by peacefully and slowly. And that was what I was seeing right then. Hey, but wait a second. I needed to think a little more about this. In 2017, Takeshi and Koko were saved by Yubisei Harukana's action. So if the time passed by peacefully, eventually it would be the year 2034. Okay, so is this going to be a problem or not? Like, I want an answer, right? Like, I mean, I assume I could get an answer by, like, reading another 4 lines deep, but, like, I want an answer now. God damn it. There wouldn't be any accident. Blickwinkle wouldn't appear. What would happen then? Hokuto in this world wouldn't talk to Takeshi in the past, which is 2017. In the past that I know, Hokuto had channeled his raw, untamed force and had shouted to Takeshi's body laying on the bottom of the ocean. Dad, don't you die on me. But in the past retraced from this future, Takeshi had never heard his son scream. That meant Takeshi would have long decomposed on the bottom of the ocean. I mean, there's either 2 ways you can solve this problem. Or there's 2 ways you can solve this problem, right? One is, you hand wave it, and say, well, it's okay because different timelines can interact. So this timeline, like the Blickwinkle from the original timeline, messed with this timeline. But that's fine because of how time travel works in this setting. And the other way is, this fucks up the time stream, but there's a really easy fix, which is just don't save Koko and Takeshi until 17 years down the line. right? Like, this doesn't have to be a problem. Like, even if time travel works the inconvenient way, we can just, like, wait a little while before waking them up. Since Takeshi hadn't come back to life, Coco would have been left in the hallway, and both of them would die. Because the incident in 2017 had already taken place as a historical fact. Which meant that even in the past connected directly to this world, the incident in 2017 wouldn't have been avoided. Therefore, this world could never be possible. It could never exist. It was a paradox. If this world could exist, this question would naturally arise. Who would save Takeshi who's here alive today? Was it Hokuto from a different future? Okay. Was it that Hokuto from a world where there had been an accident in 2034 who would save Takeshi? No, that wasn't possible. Because in order for the incident to take place in 2034, the condition must be that Takeshi could not have been saved in 2017. Which meant, in order for Takeshi to come back to life at the bottom of the ocean, the events had to take place in 2034. Okay, so this isn't a problem, just wait 17 years before waking him up. Right? And in order for Coco to go under cryogenic suspension, the events had to take place in 2034. Therefore, this peaceful world could never exist. Just as I reached this conclusion, Takeshi, who was cheerfully talking with everyone, suddenly started to decompose with a horrible sound. Wow, that's huh. His skin became soggy and peeled off by itself. That's, visceral. His exposed muscle fibers became dark and putrid, the surface flaking away. His cells started to dissolve and run like mud dripping to the ground. His abdomen burst open, spilling his internal organs. His hair fell out in chunks, exposing the white skull underneath. All that was left were white bones with pieces of red flesh stuck to them. I mean, this entire sequence would be, like, a lot more interesting if it wasn't that, like, if it wasn't for the fact that there's already, like, a really easy fix to their problem. Right. Eventually, even his skeleton collapsed with a dry sound. And at the same time, Coco disappeared without a sound. Confused, Hokuto and I flew back to 2017. Yubisei Harukano was still standing in the same place. You! What? You just disappeared, now you're back again? Don't tell me it was only a joke or something. No, do tell her it was only a joke or something. And then 17 years from now, tell her that it was the truth. I won't. It was real, I'm telling the truth. Takeshi and Coco are sleeping in the capsule pods right now. Okay, yeah, no. Don't tell her that was a joke. Tell her that she needs to set up this accident in 2034. She needs to set up the fake, events at Limu in order to maintain a stable time loop. Right? Like, this is a non-issue. Like, it's unfortunate that we can't avoid Hokuto and Sarah having shitty childhoods, but, like, it's better than not having a stable time loop, because then if we don't have a stable time loop, like, everything falls apart, right? Like, we're all on the same page here? But, you can't rescue them. What? Why is that? It's because... I can't stand it any longer. I pushed away Hokuto's consciousness and jumped to the front. You have to wait for 17 years. Oh my god, see? I'm so glad, like, the writers are clearly... Like, they know what I'm thinking, right? I was, like, upset that Hokuto wasn't explaining it correctly. And then, like, Blickwinkle does the same thing! They've captured the essence of my personality. I told her that before anything else. Yep. Good on me. 17 years from now, I'll reappear before you, I promise. The what? Puckering out her lips, and Yu cocked her head to the side. Just listen carefully to what I'm gonna tell you. I explained to her about the following. 17 years from now, I will reappear to you all. I just told you that, right? But in order for me to reappear, you'll need to trick me. So what I'm asking you to do is, trick me 17 years from now. Trick me into falsely believing that it's the year 2017 again. When that happens, I'll still be the third eye, Blickwinkle, and that will cause me to reveal myself. But unless I reveal myself, neither Takeshi nor Coco will be saved. Because in order to restore life to Takeshi, who sank to the bottom of the ocean, I'll need to appear as myself and go back to the year 2017. Man, I'm so glad that, like, this Yu is, like, on board with supernatural bullshit. Because otherwise, like, this would be a really difficult sell. Like, imagine if we had to convince 2034 Yu of this. Like, it would take meaningfully more convincing. Whereas, like, I would not at all be surprised if this Yu, like, at the end of our, like, long, convoluted explanation is like, okay, sounds like a plan. If I do not appear myself, Takeshi's gonna rot at the bottom of the ocean. And if Takeshi fails to reach the laboratory, Coco will be left in the hallway. Both of them will die. You get it? So, no matter what happens, you need to stay away from IBF until 17 years from now. If you save Coco and Takeshi now, the event in 2034 will fail to take place. If that happens, I won't appear. and if I don't appear, then I'll be unable to save Takeshi and Coco in 2017, which will form a time paradox and Takeshi and Coco will disappear. I'll repeat it again, okay? In order for me to appear in the year 2034, you must not rescue Takeshi and Coco now. I know it's painful, but that's the only way. And, as for the way to trick me... Oh yeah, this one's gonna be a difficult sell for, like, anyone. Like... I get it, but, like, it's kind of obnoxious, right? Well, how can I explain? You'll need a bit of preparation. Although it shouldn't be too difficult. You certainly have enough time. 17 years, actually. So it shouldn't be impossible. I'll tell you what to do. Are you ready? The date to act on the plan will be Monday, May 1st, 2034. Oh hey, it's Monday! That's today! Oh, wait, no. Wait. Never mind, I'm dumb. Pay no attention. I don't know what I'm talking about. Wrong year. Wrong year. See, you can tell that I'm Blickwinkle. I can't tell the difference between 2017 and 2034. Clearly her plan worked. First, Sarah will be visiting Limu for a school event on that day. Sarah is Tsugumi's daughter, who will be born next January. She's actually a twin, and her twin brother's name is Hokuto. But due to unavoidable circumstances, Tsugumi, Sarah, and Hokuto will be separated. So you could probably just tell Tsugumi you'll be reunited with your son and daughter at Limu. If you tell her that, Tsugumi will come to Limu for sure. Next, you can also invite Hokuto in the same way. If you tell him you'll meet your mother and sister, he'll also come, alone. You must also have your daughter, Yubisei Akikana, work as a Limu attendant just as you did. If you coach her, you could lead her in that direction, right? And you must not tell anything to Sora. It is best that you erase her memories of the incident in 2017. There's nothing to worry about because all the backup memories are saved in the terabyte disk. And finally, you'll need the cooperation of young Kaburaki. 17 years from now, Kaburaki must look and act absolutely like Takeshi Kuranari. So you must begin training to look and act just like Takeshi. Don't worry, he'll catch on in 17 years. These 6 people are required for the plan. All you have to do is simply throw them together into Limu on May 1st, 2034, and have an accident similar to the one in 2017. If you can arrange this, things will work out by themselves. The time in question will be 1 week from the 1st to the 7th. For those 7 days, you must not interfere with them, no matter what kind of crisis happens. Understood? They'll survive by themselves. And, should I show no signs of reappearing by 9 PM on the 6th? Then I ask of you to rescue them all. Is that clear? Will you do as I just told you? You must not forget. On May 1st, 2034, you're gonna trick me. Understood? Oh, wait, it's not me to be exact. It's actually Hokuto. I want you to trick Hokuto. You must trick him so that he'll believe it's the year 2017. 17 years from now, without remembering why, I might ask you something like, why have you called me here? Then I want you to answer this way. I only followed your directions. That's all. It's kind of lengthy, but you understand? You got it, right? I need you to understand this. Yubisei Harukana was surprisingly accepting. Yeah, that was pretty much how I expected that to go down. Like, that's like a lot to parse in the space of like 2 minutes. But fortunately, Yubisei Harukana is like on board with supernatural bullshit, so I expected her to not have an issue parsing it. So good on you, Yubisei Harukana. Glad you could help. As if overwhelmed by my enthusiasm, she kept nodding her head. But I was still worried about whether she truly understood everything. Explaining to her again in more detail, I repeated the same words, almost as if I were trying to hypnotize her. It took several more hours for her to precisely capture the whole picture. Hokuto and I made sure that she understood one last time. Then we left her. The world in 2034 had returned to normal. Hokuto and I were still confronting Yubisei Harukana. She kept her mouth closed as if she had spoken about everything. You, Yubisei Akikana, stood next to her, also wordless. In the cold silence, I tried to reorganize in my mind what had happened so far, and started wondering. Why am I here? I found the answer easily. I've appeared because I was tricked by myself from the past. I mean, the mastermind behind the incident in 2034 was no one else other than myself. In 2017, I told you to trick me, and therefore I appeared in the world in 2034, having been tricked by myself. Thanks to the strength of Hokuto's appeal, Takeshi had come back to life and saved Coco, helping her into the pod and activated the cryogenic suspension. So that was what happened. That moment when Hokuto had shouted out Dad at the dark bottom of the ocean. Everything had happened for the sake of that moment. It had taken 17 years, going back in time, in order to bring the dead back to life. That was everything. Coco and Takeshi were still sleeping 357 feet under the ocean. So I need to get there, in order to save them. Before I realized it, I was already sprinting across the island. I ran on the grass and jumped into the deep brush. Dodging the branches, slicing through the wind, I ran like an arrow released. As I pumped my legs, I thought, how can I get to the bottom of the ocean? I cut through the woods as I was thinking. I sprinted over the curving arch of a bridge, and reached the docks, the harbor for the floating island. I looked around and didn't see anything that resembled a mini-sub. As I tried to catch my breath, I walked around the docks. I noticed there were broken pieces of rock in the middle of the open area. All the pieces scattered around were huge. They were as big as my whole body. The surface of the rocks had a refined smoothness. Looking closely, I found some letters were carved on it. Where, above, sky, there were meaningless letters jumbled on the pieces of rock near me. Oh right, because that makes sense, because... like, the plaque was there in 2017. But, like, Mark has been running for the past 17 years, like, there's no particular reason for the plaque to be smashed to pieces. I guess there's no real reason for it not to be, either. There were letters on the other pieces. I put the pieces together and tried to guess the original sentence. It said, "Where is heaven? Above the sky and at your feet." It's a stone monument, I whispered. The monument must have fallen down for some reason and broken into pieces. Was it due to the tremor from the accident? Or had it been the passengers, who in a state of panic had rushed toward the docks and knocked it over? I had no idea what the cause was. I picked up one of the smaller pieces. Oh, it's heavy. It was probably as heavy as Coco. And then, a thought just hit me. It did? Felt the same weight as Coco. How is that relevant? If I jump into the ocean holding this piece of rock in my arms, before I had time to think it over, my feet were already starting to move. Wow. That's the stupidest thing I've heard all day. Like, that's a really dumb plan. This is not a good plan. This is a bad plan. Like, there is no sense of urgency here, right? Like, or rather, there doesn't need to be. Like, they've been fine for the past 17 years. Presumably, they'll be fine for another day or two while we call a proper submarine over. Right? Like, we've more or less used up our time travel bullshit. Like, there is no reason to rush this part. Like, you don't get to, like, time travel hack everyone back to life anymore. You are, like, running a very real risk of actually just dying if you do this. Right? Like, you're being a dumbass. Before I had time to think it over, my feet were starting to move already. I ran hard towards the ocean. The moment I reached my maximum speed, I kicked off the ground with all my strength. My body flew in the air. I jumped high over the fence. The blue water surface swayed below my eyes. I splashed into the ocean holding this heavy piece of stone. The letters on the piece said heaven. Holding heaven tightly to my chest, I plummeted into the darkness. What is the point of this? I don't understand. Why are you doing this? As I sank deeper and deeper, it felt as if I were running fast with the wind against my face. The seawater pressed hard on my eardrums. Unable to pop my ears because I held heaven in my arms, I simply endured the pain. Water pressure, incredibly high, squeezed my body. It felt as if my joints were about to snap into pieces. And all of this could have been easily avoided! My chest felt as though it would be crushed. Deeper, deeper, deeper. The deeper I went, the more the water pressure rose. My lungs could not stand it. I decided to open my mouth. Blub. The air in my lungs came out and a large amount of water poured into them. I automatically gagged and started to choke. Even then, cold seawater filled my windpipe. As my lungs filled up with water, I felt despair welling up inside of me. How far had I gone? I looked up and saw the water surface far above. And like, not only does this plan have a pretty solid chance of killing you, like, it doesn't even have that good of a chance of getting you into IBF, right? Like, as far as I can see, there's functionally no upside to this plan. I couldn't go back now. I looked below. I couldn't see anything. There was only a blue-black darkness. I couldn't see the bottom of the ocean yet. No matter how fast I sank, 357 feet was still very long. I went deeper and deeper, but the scenery was unchanged. The darkness, 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 a world covered in darkness. It occurred to me that I might just be swallowed by some deep ocean trench and keep falling forever. I began to feel desperate. Wow, it's almost like this was a really bad plan, and there was no reason to do it. But what do I know? The only positive thing was that somehow the pain had disappeared. I felt that my conscious mind could still be clear, as the sense of pain had numbed. I realized that for the first time in my life. Wait. To begin with, the body I was in belonged not to me, but to Hokuto. Yeah, you're just gonna get Hokuto killed. And by you, I mean me. Like, I'm gonna get Hokuto killed. Awkward. Thinking about that, I felt guilty. I need to return it in one piece. I couldn't see the bottom yet. My brain was running out of oxygen, and I started to lose consciousness. My limbs were numb. The numbness soon turned into spasms. Against my will, my limbs started to go wild. I almost dropped heaven. I quickly pulled it close to me and held it tighter to my chest, going deeper, deeper, and deeper. Like, I recognize that from a narrative standpoint, saying, and then they waited 2 days and got a submarine, like, is not the most exciting plot development, but like, as you may have noticed by my ranting over the past 5 minutes, like, this is mind-bogglingly stupid. Like, mind-boggling. It boggles the mind. My mind is currently boggled, and will continue to be boggled for the foreseeable future. Like, I think you all have pretty much gotten the idea that I'm, like, really upset at Blake Wingle right now for being a dumbass, so I'm, like, gonna stop repeating myself every third line, but, like, for the love of Christ, dude. I must have looked like a priest at an exorcism gone wrong, possessed by an evil spirit, my whole body twitching wildly. Clonk. I hit a rock surface and it stopped going down. Splash. I burst forth from the water surface with great force. Putting my face above the pool, I started coughing hard, trying to expel all of the seawater in my lungs. I grabbed the rim of the pool. I took a deep, deep breath. I choked hard as I was breathing in and chucked up a large amount of water. I repeated that a few times. I now really understood the suffering Takeshi had gone through. I crawled up weakly onto the floor. Phew! But there was no time to relax. I started running towards the examination room. It had been 17 years since I had last been there. I felt the heaviness of all the past years as I smelled the stale odor in the room. The paint on the capsule pod had partially peeled off and the surface of it was rough and weathered. Manipulating the computer terminal, I checked on the status of the pods. Both Coco and Takeshi were safe. Under cryogenic suspension, their body temperatures had been kept at about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, with their heartbeats and breathing reduced to only a few times a minute. They seemed to be in good health. The cryogenic suspension device seemed to have worked properly without a single glitch for 17 years. I deactivated the hibernation program for both of the pods. Finally, Coco and Takeshi were set to awaken at any time. First, I opened Coco's pod. Coco. 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 Coco! Who is it? It's me, Coco. I came to save you. You came? Yeah. I kept my promise, didn't I? The promise. The promise. The promise? Coco rubbed her eyelids and blinked repeatedly. Oh. Ah! Ah! I knew it! So you did come to save me! Coco jumped up and hugged me. Oh wait, was it actually Hokuto who she had hugged? Or was it me? Or was it Hokuto? Was it Hokuto who wasn't me? Or is it me who wasn't Hokuto? I didn't fully understand, but still. I hugged Coco tightly too. You know, I've been waiting for you for so long. I know. I've been waiting for you for so long! I know. I knew you would come and get me. I wanted to see you so bad. I had to see you again. My brother. Uh-huh. But you see, Coco, I'm not your brother, actually. Oh, that's alright. A girl who doesn't have a brother could call someone who's like a brother, brother. Wow. That's kind of anticlimactic. I was, like, all ready for some, like, big, exciting revelation about how a 3-dimensional being and a 4-dimensional being could be siblings. But no, it's just actually Coco being a monkey. Like, we have precedent for Coco being a weirdo. But, like, I was all excited for some big revelation. I mean, I guess I'm glad because there was, like, it would have been very difficult to come up with a revelation or like a resolution to that made sense while like still making them actually siblings. But at the same time, like, I got baited super hard, and I'm a little sad. Where is that written? It's not written anywhere. I just decided it. Coco stepped away from me. Coco and I stared at each other as if we were drawn to each other. Hey, it's strange. I thought I had so many things to talk to you about when I finally see you, but I don't know why, but I got all tongue-tied. Oh, but one thing. Can I tell you something I couldn't tell you before? Sure. Well, I think you'll be surprised, but you might not believe me, but I might have fallen in love with you. What? My heart skipped a few beats. Well, but I still, for 17 years. For 17 years. I've been waiting for you, brother. I've known about you since 17 years ago, you see. You've been watching over me this whole time, too. But I've been watching you, too. It all started to make sense to me. Coco and I had been sharing the same time. I must have been sharing experiences with Coco through Takeshi's point of view. I'd always been by Coco's side. Would it be so bad if I fell in love with you? I don't think so, really. Well then, it's decided. From now on, you and I are sweethearts, okay? What? Before I got the chance to ask her back, Coco jumped into my arms again. Coco had regained all her strength. Maybe the antibody had kicked in while she was under cryogenic suspension. Whatever it was, I was relieved. My heart was filled with waves of happiness. It had taken me a while, but it was finally Takeshi's turn. I gave the body back over to Hokuto, since I wanted them to have a family moment. Hokuto opened Takeshi's pod. Dad! Dad! Dad, wake up! Father! All of a sudden, Takeshi opened his eyes. Where is this? He looked around confused. Takeshi realized that Hokuto's face was in front of him and said, Who on earth are you? It's me, Dad! Takeshi took a close look at Hokuto's face. He looked over at Hokuto's whole body. He closed his eyes tightly and started banging his forehead with his palm. He opened his eyes and glared at the examination room wall. Then, Takeshi gasped as if he realized something and looked at Hokuto again. So you're that, Hokuto? That's right, it's me, Dad! Dad, I've missed you so much! Dad! Raising his face like a child, Hokuto rubbed his face against Takeshi's chest. Hey, wait a second, Hokuto. Takeshi pushed back Hokuto. Take it easy, will you, alright? Takeshi tapped Hokuto on the back. Takeshi raised himself and stretched his legs outside the pod. Coco rushed at him. Takipyon! Coco hastily jumped at Takeshi and hugged him. Hey, Coco, you look all better now. Uh-huh, I don't have a single sore spot. That's great. Looks like the plan worked out beautifully, didn't it? That's just so great. Dad! Hokuto jumped at Takeshi and hugged him just like Coco. Whoa, stop it now. Takeshi forcefully peeled him away. Why? Why do you want me to hug you? Before I answer that question, there's something I want to ask you. What is it? How long have I been sleeping? A day? 2 days? Oh man, I didn't sleep for like a week, did I? Don't know how to break this to you, man. Like, I really don't. Huh? Guessing from your reaction, it's been more than a week? A month? 3 months then, maybe? You gotta be kidding. You mean, I slept past summer and into autumn? Hokuto and Coco closed their eyes and shook their heads. Today is Sunday, May 7th. The last day of the holiday. Ew, come on, you had me scared for a second there. So it's only been a few hours since then. Hokuto and Coco looked at each other, nodded, and said, Dad, I don't want you to panic, alright? Just calm down and listen. Well, actually, Takipyon, you've been, sleeping for... What? 17 years? After a while, Yubisei Harukana took a small submersible to pick us up at the IBF pool. So yeah, why couldn't we have waited for that to come, instead of jumping into the ocean holding a rock like a dumbass? Just curious. Just offering that as a suggestion. Like, maybe next time there's a thing that you want to see at the bottom of the ocean, like, wait for the submarine. Like I said, I was going to stop ranting about it. So this is going to be the last time. For real, I promise this time. But, like, seriously, come on. Inside the mini-sub, she scolded Hokuto. You gotta be out of your mind to dive into the ocean like that. That's what I'm saying. I mean, 357 feet. Don't you know, Hokuto? In this world, there's this wonderful and safe vessel for going underwater called a submarine. Why didn't you just let me know? You are so stupid! Pure foolishness. You must be the dumbest guy in history. See, Yubisei Harukana is now my favorite. It must come from your father's side of the family. Yeah. I don't doubt it for a moment. She kept picking on Hokuto until they reached the surface. Hokuto must have been thinking, it wasn't really me who decided to jump into the ocean. Oh, don't you go putting this on me, dude. I mean, yes, it was totally Blakewinkle's fault, but it wasn't my fault, okay? This is not my idea. Like, if there had been a dialogue box that like popped up with like choices like there have been throughout the story, where one of the choices is jump into the ocean like a dumbass, and the other one is don't jump into the ocean and wait for the submarine like a sane person, like I would have chosen the second one. I said I was done ranting, and I promised and everything, and I lied. I do that a lot. I lie a lot. The whole time, Takeshi still hadn't accepted the fact that he had been sleeping for 17 years. No matter how many times they tried to explain, he just wouldn't listen. Therefore, Takeshi still couldn't believe that Hokuto was truly his son. Under the bright sunlight, Takeshi, Koko, Hokuto, and Pipi were hanging around. Good morning. Those are such nice words. It made me feel like getting up and doing my best. Yeah, I agree. Okay, then I'll say it too. Good morning, Takepyon. Good morning, Koko. Well, me too. Good morning, Dad. Good morning, son. Son? I don't have a son. I've got a daughter, too. Hey, don't start adding kids like that. So you're telling me I'm the father of 2 children at my age? And you've, like, basically adopted Koko, so you're, like, up to 3 now. That's right. And it's true whether you like it or not. Right, Koko? Right, Hokuton? Gahaha! Listening to their cheerful laughter, I thought to myself, I should be going back to where I came from. As I began to fade, I heard only their happy voices behind me. Hey, Takepyon, Takepyon. Oh? I've got a new brother. A new brother? Uh-huh. He's actually my brother and my boyfriend at the same time. I don't recall agreeing to either of these things, by the way. This isn't on me. Really? Well, good for you. Ow, ow. Hey, Dad, Dad! I told you not to call me Dad. How about Father, then? Don't call me that either. Why not? You told me to call you Father before. Well, that just slipped out of my mouth. Ow, ow! Hey, Takepyon, Takepyon. What's that? Poo-poo, kapoo, poo-kapoo, kapoo. You're not making any sense. Hey, Dad, Dad. What is it now? Chua, 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 chua. You too, huh? Ow, ow, ow. What's up, Pee-Pee? Oh! You just wanted to howl? Takepio, Takepio. Hey, stop changing my nickname. Coco's short comedy. If Coco were a monster. You are a monster, Coco. Deep down in your heart, you're a monster. You just haven't realized it yet. Grr, grr, I'm a monster. Thump, thump, thump. I'm going to destroy everything. Grr. Where's the punchline? My grandfather's son, my grandmother's son. That's so confusing. Hokuton's comedy sketch. If I became a 12th grader. Since I've made it all the way to 12th grade, I'll try my best not to forget to bring stuff to school. Since I always seem to forget my protractor, I'll do my best to remember it. That's a resolution, not comedy. Well, do your best. Don't you forget it, you hear? What's with you this time, Pee-Pee? Let me guess, you just wanted to howl again, huh? Takepyon, Takepyon. What is it now? I want to play Caterpillar, I want to play Caterpillar, I want to play Caterpillar. Go ahead, nobody's stopping you. Dad, Mom. What, am I both now? Look, if you can't think of anything to say, just don't say anything. You're just going to howl again. Oh! Oh, it's shorter now. That's kind of new. Takepyon, Takepyon. What is it? Poo-poo, kapoo, poo-poo, kapoo. There you go again. I decided to leave as I was hearing their happy voices. Oh, wait a minute, brother. What? Can I see you again? I know I'll see you again, no matter what. I believe in you. Because you know something? You and me are both from the sun, right? We can use psychic power. Okay, so believe in me too. Your world and my world are connected. Our 2 worlds are going to be united. And in the intersection, there's a perspective. I'll always be with you, brother. Okay, so I'll see you then, brother. May 7th, 2034. 11:17 a.m. Takeshi Kuranari. I was in the center of a world of blue, headed back to the mainland. There was nobody on the boat besides us. Me, Hokuto, Tsugumi, Yubisei Harukana, Sora, Koko, Kaburaki, Chami, and Pipi. Wait, how is Sora on the boat? Like, is there RSD on the boat? Oh, and the two girls called Yubisei Akikana Tanaka and Sarah Matsunaga. Altogether 9 people and 2 animals. Wait, Chami's still here? Yay! That was really all I cared about. I slipped a short distance away from everyone and leaned over the deck railing to look out at the expanse of ocean before me. The May sun sparkled on the ocean. Above, high above, stretched a clear blue sky. The fresh, new sky looked so glossy and vivid that it might spill down to earth at any moment. It was all that was reflected in my eyes. The straight line of the horizon stretched into the distance, dividing the sky from the heavens. So tranquil, I murmured to myself. A solitary seagull traced a gentle arc in the sky as the wind carried it away. The wind, full of the smell of the ocean, gently blew by me. So peaceful. I felt as if I were dreaming. Everything I had saw in the scene before me was exactly as it had been 6 days earlier. 6 days earlier. For me, it had only been 6 days. Not even a week had passed. I got separated from my friends that day, and ended up waiting by myself for an elevator. But after surviving for 6 days, I had been sucked 17 years into the future. Oh yeah, that's gotta like fuck with your head. It's like, oh, well, I guess all my friends and family are now 17 years older, and also I like disappeared off the face of the earth. I don't know how to break this to like everyone. That would be super inconvenient. And like, you'd probably have to like go through various government organizations to like convince them that you're not dead, so that you can like get your social security number back and whatnot, or the Japanese equivalent, I guess. And that would be a pain in the ass. Like just thinking about this from the logistics side of things. And hey, Daddy, Dad. I found out that I had a 16-year-old daughter and son. Oh yeah, that would also fuck with your head. It was a dream. Yeah, that's right. I must be dreaming. If I'm not dreaming, there's no way this could be happening. Hey, Dad, listen. The girl called Sarah pulled up close to me. The girl was wearing a high school uniform I'd never seen her before. I'd never seen before? What? Okay. She suddenly pulled up close and pressed her cheek against my arm. Hey, look at this. You know, I've been watching you ever since I was a little baby girl. Sarah stuck out a pendant with a mirror attached to it. On the mirror side, there was nothing. But, oh really? I don't understand, but that's okay, daughter of mine. I can't believe how tall you've gotten. Saying this, I stroked her hair. Since I'd come this far, I decided there was no reason to hold back. Besides, all this was a dream. And if I had a daughter this cute, what did it matter anyway? There was no reason to resist the whole situation, and as I was thinking that, hey, Dad, no fair. And you kept telling me don't call me Dad. How come you all act all dad-like to Sarah? Well, you see, it's because she's cuter than you are. Hey, Dad. I want to go to Ninja Town for fun someday soon. Ninja Town, huh? Why not? Sounds good to me. Hey, stop ignoring me! How come you listen to everything Sarah says? Why don't you listen to a thing I say? Well, Dad, why not? I'm not ignoring you. I just don't want to answer those kinds of questions. What do you mean, those kinds of questions? Those kind. I don't answer meaningless questions. Tsugumi Komachi. I don't answer meaningless questions. I could hear his words coming from a distance, the same words I used to say 17 years ago. In order to protect myself from the strong May sunshine, I had stayed inside the boat. I could see the 3 of them through the window. Takeshi was on the deck over by the railing, talking to the 2 kids. I don't answer meaningless questions. Yes. That's why I always kept quiet whenever he had asked me something. There was so much I wanted to talk about. I wanted to tell him about every single day that had passed these long 17 years. But for the moment, watching him innocently playing with the children was enough for me. Everything that had happened up until that point is meaningless. He was there, right in front of me, and the 2 children were there. There was nothing more I could have hoped for. I found happiness. I was immersed in it, drowning in it, intoxicated by it. Man, if it wasn't for the fact that this was like the epilogue, I would expect something really bad to happen right about now. That was truly how I felt. It seemed to me that all the days filled with struggle and sadness had been for that day, that moment. Hokuto and Sarah were on both sides of him, and even when he tried to throw them off, they clung to him. I absently petted Chami, who was riding on my shoulder, as I watched the scene before me. Him, Takeshi Kuranari. So live. As long as you're alive, live. Don't worry. I'm not gonna die. After saying that, he jumped from our taxi, that stupid man. Stupid man. But he had kept his promise. There was something I had to tell him. Going outside, wrapped in my 100% UV protective clothing, I walked over to where he was. For some reason, my legs were shaking and my heart was beating so hard it felt like it would burst. Being careful that he wouldn't notice the deep breaths I was taking, I went and stood in front of him. Takeshi, welcome home. Suddenly, he pulled me close, into his strong arms and solid chest. My body was wrapped in a heat, which threatened to melt me, and for one moment my heart had stopped beating. Hey, back, Tsugumi. Sorry, for taking so long, he whispered. You know, you are as cute as ever. What, really? Stop it, I can't help it, you're so adorable. What's with you all of a sudden? You're so cute, I could just eat you up. Stop it, what are you talking about? You sure are charming. I suppose that's why they call you Chami. It's a good name. I see what you did there. What? I forcefully pried myself away from Takeshi's chest. His eyes were leveled at my shoulder. I looked over to see what he was staring at. Chami was busy grooming himself with jerky movements using both of his front paws. I can't believe it. You are such a jerk, Takeshi! Sarah Matsunaga. You are such a jerk, Takeshi! Mama let out a yell, and turning around, went back inside the boat, tail wagging. She moved unexpectedly, and Chami, who had been riding on her shoulder, lost his balance and fell to the deck. Hey, Tsugumi, what's wrong? Dad went chasing after Mom. Bam, wham, bang, crash, crash. A series of frightful sounds ensued. I looked over on the other side of the window and could see Mama wildly brandishing the head of the costume she'd been wearing. She'd had on one of the lemur fox monkey costumes in order to stay out of the sun. I could see Father's back as he was desperately trying to calm Mother down. Hokuto and I looked at each other and started laughing. And Chami? He was calmly acting as if nothing had happened and just continued cleaning himself. I leaned down to put Chami in my palm and stood back up. Mom had already told me about this little hamster's ordeal. When I thought about how Chami had lived through the same circumstances we had, it made my heart warm. I could feel the beating of his tiny heart in my palm. Thump, thump. His heartbeat was tiny, but consistent. It goes without saying, but I thought to myself, Chami is living each moment to the fullest. Hey, what do you think's gonna happen to us after this? What do you mean? With Lieblich. You don't think Lieblich will come after us, do you? We'll be alright, Sarah. Don't worry, okay? Someone was talking to us. Looking around, I saw. Oh, hi, Nakyu. No, wait, Miss Tanaka Yubise Harukana, right? Miss Tanaka nodded slightly. Hokuto asked Miss Tanaka, what do you mean we'll be alright? What I mean is... In saying that, she took out the newspaper that had been tucked into her pocket and handed it to my brother. He opened it up. I nestled up against his shoulder and looked at the front page headline. Lieblich Pharmaceutical responsible for outbreak of Tiefblau virus? Compulsory investigation to begin in a day or two. It was learned that the Tiefblau virus, TB, which had ravaged the world since 2017, was manufactured by the Frankfurt-based pharmaceutical giant Lieblich Pharmaceutical. When a whistleblower from the Japanese-German joint managed research facility came forward earlier this week. Spurred by these allegations, the Metropolitan Police Department is expected to open a criminal investigation that will focus on Lieblich's branch offices as well as related research facilities. Lieblich Pharmaceutical has for some time been conducting research and development of TB for the purpose of manufacturing a biological weapon. Yeah, I feel like that's probably against the Geneva Convention. Like, couldn't tell you the specifics of the Geneva Convention, but like, biological weapons seem like the kind of things that would be on it. The outbreak of the virus is rumored to have occurred in their research facility around May 1st, 2017. You don't say, oh hey, that's today. Lieblich not only sought to cover up the accident, but also continued research into TB without the authorization of the Ministry of Health under conditions of extreme secrecy, according to the whistleblower. And it's like actually today, not like 2034 today. The location of the company's research institute has not yet been confirmed. Numerous other doubts involving Lieblich, including charges that it wrongfully detained citizens for the purpose of human experiments, have been raised in order to be investigated. In order to fully uncover the facts behind these allegations and reported incident, the Metropolitan Police Department is requesting cooperation from authorities in Germany, where Lieblich's head office is located. Lieblich has a lot of influence, even political clout at the national level. So laying the groundwork for this was really tough, but Miss Tanaka put out an old marker and scratched it against her cheek. So, the whistleblower mentioned in this article is... That's right, it was me. Actually, I leaked this to the police and the press quite a long time ago. But there's a lot of behind-the-scenes maneuvering. So I told them, whatever happens, don't move before May 7th. And they listened to you? You mean in order to rescue Dad and the girl Coco? That's right. Well, That means they won't come after us, and we're free. Yep. So there's nothing to worry about, okay? Miss Tanaka smiled kindly. Just then, there's nothing to worry about? How can you say that? Do you have any clue who you're talking to? Do you have any idea how hard a time that Mayo's been through? Have you stopped to think about that, Mother? Come here, Mom, for a second. I have something to tell you. Yubise Harukana Tanaka. I have something to tell you. And saying that, my daughter tugged firmly on my arm and led me over to the corner of the deck. What do you want to talk about? You already know, right? In 2025, you started working at Limu to conduct research into the third eye. I mean, in order to save the real Takeshi Kurenari and that girl called Coco. So, why? If you were working at Limu, you could have found a way to rescue Mayo. He's been locked up at Lieblich's facility all this time. You could have reunited Tsugumi and her kids, right? So why didn't... Well, it had to be done to save Takeshi and Coco. We didn't dare to change history, because I made a promise to Blake Winkle in 2017. So, you aren't going to tell me anything? Are you? Always like this. You always decide everything. Even if you couldn't trust me enough to explain things before all that happened. You don't have to lie to me. You've lied to me these 18 years. Yes, I have. And there's nothing I can say to apologize. So, I don't want you to lie to me, or hide anything. I want to know everything. There's still things you haven't told me yet, right? Like who my real dad and mom were. Tell me, please. I didn't hesitate. I told her about her father, Yoichi, and mother, Yukie. I told her the truth. All of it. May 6, 2017. Because Coco was sick, we had all headed to the IBF research lab. While Takeshi, the young Kaburaki, and Tsugumi were searching around the research facility, I stayed behind in the examination room. Coco and the researcher were lying in the capsule pods. The researcher, who was fighting to stay conscious as the virus consumed his body, told me this. I never dreamed that we would meet again in a place like this. That's right, he was my father, YT, Yoichi Tanaka. As he was lying there in agony, he explained to me what had happened. 2000 AD. My father was a researcher on the Lemon Development Project. One day, by accident, he discovered that Lieblich was developing the TB virus. TB is a potent virus, which has exceedingly high mortality rate, and Lieblich was planning to sell it to military buyers around the world. Father, whose sense of justice was stronger than anyone I've ever known, appealed to the company to stop development of the virus immediately. But of course they refused. That being the case, my father made up his mind. He hacked into the highly protected company database, collected evidence, and prepared to leak the information to the press. However, Lieblich found out before he could make his move and put him in a situation he could not escape. They threatened my father, telling him, "Should you escape from here, your wife and child will probably die in an unfortunate car accident." And to my mother, Yukie, Lieblich said, "Your husband is missing after a highly tragic accident. When making his rounds on the Limu premises, he slipped and fell into the ocean. We're doing everything we can to search the surrounding waters, but it remains still have not been located." My mother believed them. It was the summer of my first year. Time passed, and it was the year 2017. My father, who had been maintaining the computer system for IBF, was caught up in the TB outbreak. And all the researchers fled, one by one. Or as all the researchers fled, one by one, my father stayed in IBF, because he was worried about me. My father knew I was working at Limu, and my father, right in front of my eyes, after enduring one disaster after another and gasping in pain, while clawing at his throat, he struggled until the end to say, "My daughter, take care of her." His last words. Because of that accident, the TB virus broke out, causing terrible suffering all over the world. But Lieblich Pharmaceutical concealed everything. The truth about the virus, the research facility, everything was locked away. And the press only reported that it was a deadly virus of unknown origin. Even the experts had no idea where the disease really came from. However, the incubation period was very short, so even though the death rate was high, in many cases the carrier died before infecting others. So while the TB virus spread rapidly for a time, by 2019, 2 years after the accident, the pace and scale of the disease's destruction gradually waned. Okay, yeah, that was one thing I was still curious about, because, like, they went to all those efforts to, like, lock down Limu to prevent the virus from getting out, but then, like, a bunch of the researchers escaped. So, that answered that question. Apparently the virus did get out, and it killed a bunch of people. Awkward. But that doesn't mean there weren't victims. The number of people that the virus killed is said to have reached several tens of thousands. And one of them was my mother, Yukie. It was 15 years ago when my mother caught TB and it robbed her of her life. My sadness, anger, and hatred all came together then. I swore that I would get revenge on Lieblich. I infiltrated Limu and at the same time started formulating a plan to rescue Takeshi and Coco, who were trapped in the research facility. And the person who helped me to do that was Ryogo Kaburaki, We've spent every moment for the past 17 years preparing for this. Yes, it was the only thing that I've lived for up until now. To make Lieblich pay for taking my mother and father from me, and to save my friends Takeshi and Koko. And in order to do that, we needed to discover the third eye, like Winkle. Without his help, there was nothing we could do. There was no other way that we, who were living in this dimension, could go back in time. That was how the whole plan had been set in motion, all towards May 1st, 2034. After finishing my explanation, I let out a big sigh. Biting on the nail of my thumb, my daughter looked up at the sky. See, look at that face. I knew you wouldn't believe me. She looked at me. But then again, who would? But it doesn't change the fact that it's the truth. I reached out to stroke her hair. She stared at me blankly, just like I did 17 years ago. Reckless, full of fire, pure, to the point of being dangerous, and unable to control her emotions. Her innocent eyes had seen none of the evil and corruption in this world. Looking into her eyes, I could read everything she was thinking. She wasn't mad, she wasn't unhappy. Just afraid to accept the truth. She didn't know how to handle it, and was scared and embarrassed by that fact. So I reached out and held her closely. There's no need for you to say anything, I thought this quietly to myself. Mom, I understand what you're trying to tell me. She whispered this quietly in my ear. But there's something I have to know. What? What do I mean to you? I laughed at that thinking and replied, You're everything to me. Yubise Akikana Tanaka. You're everything to me. Mom said these words to me. I wanted her to tell me, you're my daughter, but for some reason it didn't bother me. Another voice inside my head murmured, Shouldn't you be furious, and you should slap her across the face. But for some reason I couldn't get angry. I relaxed against my mother, who held me tightly, and I could only feel dizzy from her warmth. All of my normal reactions, such as lashing out like a wild animal in my sudden mood swings. The warmth of her hug took all of that away. Mom, when it came down to it, I still thought of her as my mother. It was an instinctive itch that transcended my basic reason. It was beyond my ability to control. In the end, no matter what anyone said, the woman in front of me was my mother. She wasn't much of a mother, but to me she was the only mother I had. And that's all there was to it. At that moment it occurred to me, I only differed from other people in the way that I was born. I've been told since I was a little girl that there are lots of things in this world that are hard to believe. In junior high and high school, all of my friends loved to talk about all kinds of strange things. Psychic phenomena, supernatural powers, UFOs, UMAs, super ancient civilizations, urban myths, curses, fortune-telling, miracles, mysteries. I thought I had dismissed all of these things as girlish fantasy, but something had now changed slightly. I mean, my existence itself was something hard to explain. If I thought about the fact that I myself, this girl called you, was something of a mystic entity, then ectoplasm, cattle mutilations, Rip Van Winkle, the Lemurian civilization, all these seemed like normal everyday things. Even the third eye. And while those thoughts drifted inside my head, my mother quietly went inside of the boat. Left by myself in the corner of the deck, I bathed in the lingering warmth that remained on my skin. The boat rocked slowly back and forth as it cut through the waves. The smell of the ocean gently wafted by, carried by the spring breeze, or the sea breeze. Soon, oh hey you! You've been here all along? I've been looking for you. The kid, Hokuto, came walking over to me. Actually, there was something I wanted to ask you. Ask me? Hokuto nodded deeply and said, I've been thinking I want to study archaeology when I go to college. Hokuto. I've been thinking I want to study archaeology when I go to college. I told to you it had been on my mind. Eh? Why that again? Well, because I want to study more about the third eye. You was silent. Huh? What are you, stupid? There's no such thing as a third eye. I thought for sure that she would come back with something like that, so I was caught off guard by her reply. And? What do you want to ask me about? Well, I've already made up my mind that I'm going to study archaeology, but still, I don't really know that much about it. Like what kind of things I should do to prepare, or if there's any good books you know that are good primers on the subject. So I was hoping you could give me some advice. Well, I don't know what kind of advice I can give. I only just started college and I've only really taken my recs, so... Recs? Required classes. In order to major in archaeology, you've got to be a junior. Oh. I'm sorry, but I really can't tell you anything. Oh, but maybe there is one thing. You should probably study something else. Huh? Why? Archaeology is way more boring than you're probably thinking. It's a lot different than what they show in the movies. Wait, you mean I don't get, chased out of temples by giant rolling balls and get into, like, sword and whip fights all the time? I was, under the impression that that was exactly how archaeology worked. And besides, you know what? If you want to study about the third eye, you're better off attacking it from the direction of philosophy or psychology. Besides, archaeology is the subject that studies human history. But it's okay, I've already made up my mind. I've been thinking I could approach the study of the third eye from the angle of human history. There you go, being difficult as always. I think the real reason you want to study it is so that you can be in the same field as me. I mean, it's obvious that you like me. Yeah, you're probably right. I told her point blank how I felt. And it seemed like my reply caught her off guard. Part of me feels like choosing to study archaeology was already half decided by destiny, so I don't have a choice. By destiny? Yeah? In another space-time continuum, I'm destined to walk that path in the future. Oh, that's funny. It's referring to the U epilogue. Huh? I don't think you'll understand it no matter how much I explain it anyway. But I know what I saw. In that future, you and I were going out and... What? So I'm pretty sure that in this time, you and I are destined to be together as well. I don't know if that's like a really dumb pickup line or like a really smooth pickup line. Hey, wait a second, kid. You're getting ahead of yourself here. I don't know much about fate, but things like that are decided with both persons' consent. After that happens, you start going out. Yeah, okay, I'll say it right now. Now? Yeah. Yubisei Akikana. Would you like to go out with me? Because I'm crazy about you. Yogo Kaburaki. Because I'm crazy about you. It was 2017. I was still 15. I was stuck in Limu, in a total state of confusion with no memory, and had even forgotten my name, Yogo Kaburaki. I was 15 years old. All I wanted at that time was stability. Young as I was overcome with amnesia, and even doubts as to whether my existence would fade away. In the midst of my chaos, it was her innocent smile that had helped thaw my frozen heart. I fell for her right away. All I had to do was see her smile, that's all it took, and my fear disappeared, blown away like leaves falling off a tree in autumn. Although I was still uncertain about who I was, her uniqueness helped me turn my eyes away from the turmoil inside of me to the world around me. Perhaps it was because of my uncertainty. I suppose that I might have been grasping for my identity through the love that I felt for her. I was an empty shell at that time. Flowing into that void was her simple, pure smile, innocence, and her total lack of artifice. What? From, maybe? From that point on, for 6 days, she was in my thoughts constantly. I found myself looking at her all the time. I didn't have the courage to tell her, but it was enough for me just to see her. That's how fond of her I was. I loved her. Koko Yagami. Wait, what? Wow, the bait and switch. And then May 6th, the fateful day arrived. I'd come down with TB, and when the rescue team found me, I had lost consciousness. By the time I found out that Koko had been left behind in the research facility, a few days had already passed. When you, Yubisei Harukana, told me what had happened, I was shocked. And at the same time, I thought, I've got to go save her. I didn't even wait for you to finish the rest of her story, I just ran outside. You caught up with me and started telling me about things about the third eye, the fourth dimension, and the past and future, but none of it made sense. 17 years from now, you'll have to go back to Limu. You'll return as Takeshi Kuronari. Unless we can trick Blickwinkle, wake him up and bring him to our world, we'll never save Koko and Takeshi. So please, help me. That was what you asked of me. It took a few more months for me to come fully convinced. All I wanted to do was save Koko. If she'd be alright, I didn't mind the danger. Even if I was despised, blamed, criticized, even ridiculed, none of that mattered to me. I just wanted to see Koko's smile again. Still, there was Takeshi to consider as well. I respected him greatly. He was brave enough to sacrifice his life to save the woman that he loved. For a 15-year-old like me, Takeshi was a role model. Oh god. I swore that I would save Koko and Takeshi no matter what it took. 17 years later. For 17 years, you and I had spent every minute, every second putting our plan into motion. Yes, I lived for this day. Just 6 days. Koko and I had only spent 6 days together. But in those 17 years, not a moment went by that I didn't think about her. Because I love her. That was the only reason I'd been able to fool everyone. Hey, kiddo, kiddo, kiddo! My heart leapt. She was calling to me. I couldn't turn around. I stood there frozen, even forgetting to breathe. Hey, what are you doing here all by yourself? Koko rapped me on the head and peeked around at my face. Come on and join everyone. It's no fun by yourself, right? You're not worried about something, are you? Are you feeling bad that you lied to everyone? You don't have to worry about that. Besides, if you hadn't been able to trick Blickwinkle, Takepion and me wouldn't be here right now. We owe you our lives, right? You don't have to explain a thing. We're all grateful to you. Nobody here blames you. You really think so? Of course I do. Okay, so come on. Everyone's waiting to hear your voice, kiddo. Waiting and waiting and waiting. And after that, we're gonna celebrate. Koko was laughing. The smile that I had waited 17 years to see was shining right in front of me. Sora Akanegasaki. The smile that I had waited 17 years to see was shining right in front of me. It made me dizzy to look at it. An electronic rhythm pulsed through my body, the excessive voltage throwing my logic circuits out of order. It was a pain that I experienced before. Hey, Sora? Hey, Sora! Oh, right, never mind. That's right, they, built a robot for her. That's why they don't need, the RSD thingamadoohickeys on the boat. I'd forgotten. Hey, are you listening to me? No, what were you talking about again? This here, Pee-Pee. He stopped moving all of a sudden. I just thought maybe you could take a look at him. Takeshi lifted up Pee-Pee and stuck him out in front of me. All of a sudden, you say? Any reason you can think of? Maybe. Tsugumi, she started thrashing around in the cabin and tried to pin her down, but she threw me off. And when I went down, this little guy happened to be there, and, I landed right on top of him. Maybe that's what could have caused it? Yep. After that, he stopped moving. Let me take a look. I took Pee-Pee from Takeshi and started a diagnostic on him. That's strange. I don't see anything wrong with him. Maybe his battery ran out? What a relief. If they thought I'd broken him, Coco, you, and her daughter would have been furious at me. Well, I would have been too. Upset that he hadn't included me, I continued. I'm fond of Pee-Pee too, you know. I don't even think fond describes it. You might say Pee-Pee and I are connected on a deeper level. 17 years ago, if Pee-Pee hadn't picked up my terabyte disk, I wouldn't be here right now. And after Pee-Pee got to the surface, Yubisei Harukana that is, took the data off the disk and copied it to the body you see now. That's the reason I was able to maintain the records of what happened to all of you 17 years ago. After that, you took in Pee-Pee, and from that time on he's been a member of the Tanaka family. In other words, Pee-Pee is an irreplaceable part of all of our lives. I thought I'd already told you. Yeah, that's right, now that you mention it. But come on, you don't have to get so serious about it. Besides, Pee-Pee isn't broken, so, what's the big deal? Takeshi laughed pleasantly. I can't fight it. His smile always disarmed me. It was as bright as the sun, and powerfully magnetic. He could charm me effortlessly. It isn't fair. That smile should be outlawed, Takeshi. By the way, Sora, can I ask you something? What is it? I looked away and tried desperately to regain control of my wildly racing mind, so that he would not see through to my true feelings. I hope you don't think it's rude of me to ask this, but, it's about your body. My body? Yeah. As far as I can tell, you look totally human, like your skin, the way you move, your appearance, everything. It's so natural. That isn't rude at all. Actually, that's a compliment, isn't it? Thank you. And what was that, your question? No, I mean, I was wondering how your body's put together is all. Is it strange to you? Yeah, a bit. At the same time, I'm happy. I mean, I can actually touch you now. As he said that, Takeshi put his hand on my cheek. It burned. A lump, hot and boiling, ran from my stomach to my brain. My generator was burning too much energy, frying my processor. My logic circuits shut down. Takeshi! Holding Pee-Pee firmly to my chest, I grabbed onto Takeshi's palm with my free hand. We're actually touching each other. We can touch each other, really touch each other. I'd waited these 17 years for just this moment. What's wrong, Sora? Have you been drinking or something? Your face is all red. Professor Kuronari. What is it, Misaka Nagasaki? There's so many strange things in this world, don't you think? You asked about my body, didn't you, Professor? You wondered how I came to have this body, didn't you? Yeah. There's only one answer. It was a miracle. Miracle? Yes, a miracle from the goddess Aphrodite. Takeshi looked straight into my eyes and blinked. He opened his eyes wide with a start and said, Pygmalion! I slowly, quietly nodded. Just then, hello! In came the girl with boundless energy, Coco. I quickly let go of Takeshi's hand. Hey, have any of you seen Pee-Pee? Oh, wait a second, you're holding him, Sora! Yes, but it looks like Pee-Pee ran out of batteries. And saying that, I handed Pee-Pee over to Coco. Out of batteries? That can't be! I just finished charging him a minute ago. Coco held Pee-Pee between both her hands and started shaking him left to right. He wasn't rechargeable kinetically, so that shouldn't have done anything for him, but... I exclaimed this without thinking as I realized something. Coco and Takeshi both turned to stare at me. I figured it out. The reason, I mean. The reason? His switch. I think you just need to turn on his switch. Coco lifted Pee-Pee up above her. There's a button on his navel. Here you go. Are you ready? Here I go. I stuck up my finger and zeroed in on his belly button. And keep it simple. I firmly pushed the button. Whirr. His motor started to run and I could hear the faint sound of something oscillating. Pee-Pee's eyes came to life. Sora, thank you. Don't mention it. All I did was push a button. Just then... Takeshi broke out in laughter. Hey, Sora, you remembered! Yes. I smiled from the bottom of my heart and nodded. The world is full of strange and wonderful things. Isn't it? The discussion about Pygmalion and keep it simple. Neither of those should have been on my terabyte disk. Pee-Pee leapt from Coco's arms. And wagging his tail fitfully, he raced across the deck. Hey, wait! Pee-Pee! Making a racket, Coco chased after him. The deck was overflowing with quiet sunlight and cheerful laughter. Looking up, there was the sky. The blue sky that continued without end, stretching out in all directions. Uff, uff, uff. Pee-pee, hey, you, wait a second, you little... Coco Yagami. Uff, uff, uff. Pee-pee, hey, you, wait a second, you little... I was chasing after Pee-pee. I didn't know why, but that's what I was doing. It was probably just something fun to do. Pee-pee ran across the surface of the deck, like he was flying. Suddenly, Pee-pee stopped. Ow, ow, ow. Just when I thought he wasn't running anymore, he looked up at the sky and started barking at something. Oh, is there a bird or something? I lifted him up. Still he wouldn't stop barking, so I followed his gaze and looked up into the sky. And there was... Oh, it's you, brother! Right in front of my eyes floated the outline of my brother, who I loved dearly. Well, it wasn't something I had seen. Rather, I'm seeing it right now. Right now, at this moment, Coco's looking at you. She cries out suddenly with an elated expression. Hey, everyone, come over here! Come over here, quickly, quickly! The first people to arrive are Hokuton and Tsugumi. What's wrong? Did something happen? Oh, look there! See over there! Coco points at you. She wanted to tell everyone that you've arrived. Tsugumi takes off her hat and squints her eyes against the sunlight. Hokuton is... Hey, it's true, you've come back! A smile covered his whole face, and he jumps around as if he'll start to dance. Next, Takipon shows up. What's going on? Mayo jumps up. Hey! Up on Takipon's back. And soon everyone shows up one by one. Sora, Nakyu's daughter. What's going on, you? Just come on, hurry! And Nakyu, kiddo. It's him! Yeah? The boat is suddenly crowded with excitement. Hey, brother! Brother! Coco's waving her arms wildly. Hoping, praying. Please let my thoughts reach my brother. And please let me meet with him again, someday. Right then, I, Coco, was looking at my brother. Right then, I was looking at the world where Coco existed. Looking down on it with both my eyes. I was sure of it. But wait, what if the reader, like, doesn't have two eyes? What if they, like, use an eye patch or something? What if they're blind? What if they're using text-to-speech? If the moon's only there because of your belief that it will be there when you look for it, then it was possible that I'm here, and they are here, only because we believe that we are. The world is here now. I'm here looking at the world. I'm here looking at myself, looking at the world. How far do I go? I don't know the answer. But there are some things that I'm sure of. I'm seeing now. I'm being seen now. You are seeing now. And you are surely being seen by someone. Huh. Well, that was, Ever17. Or at least most of it. Still have, Tsugumi and Sora's epilogue, if I can find a save file that will let me get to those easily. What is it, F3 is the button? Yes, okay. So while we are getting to the epilogue, I guess I can give sort of my closing thoughts on the game, because I can't imagine there's going to be too much new information presented in Tsugumi and Sora's epilogue. It's probably just... What is it going to be? Like, detailing Tsugumi's escape from Limu and Sora's getting a robot body or something? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But all in all, I enjoyed Ever17. I thought the mystery elements were executed very well. There were a couple red herrings that I wasn't a huge fan of. Especially, like, anytime Coco mentioned the word brother, like, I recognized that was a, like, Can I turn down the volume? Turn down the volume. Like, I recognized that was sort of an important red herring for the, Sarah and Coco are the same person. Like, plot arc, if that makes sense. But, like, I don't know, like, the explanation for that seems a little disingenuous. Not disingenuous so much as, like, as far as red herrings go, I felt that was, like, sort of weak. But, like, all in all, like, the thing with the infrared sight was really clever. The thing with the cure virus was, they told us about the ruin of Limu was happening faster than I'd expected. It shouldn't have been this way. Wait, is this new? We should have more time than this. We should have had more time than this. I was pretending to be cool, but I was actually in trouble. This is bad. I couldn't put on an act. If we couldn't go down to IBF, our escape route was real. Oh, that's weird. Where was I? Talking about, oh yeah, Cure was mentioned like early enough in the story that it like didn't feel like an ass pull. Even if I like sort of forgot that it existed and like thought that there was a thing that was an ass pull, like when Takeshi came back to life. But no, all in all, I thought the mystery elements were handled well. The rest of the story was ranged from like decent to like pretty dubious. Like I can definitely see why people say that the true route has to sort of pull a lot of weight in justifying the existence of the story as a whole. And while it does do some amount of work, I still think the story's like worth reading, but like I don't know, it just felt clunky. Not clunky, I don't know. I'm not expressing my thoughts clearly because because I haven't like fully formulated them yet, but like I don't feel like the non-mystery elements had to be as sort of, I don't want to say boring, but like kind of uninteresting and like repetitive as they were. Like it just felt like a lot of the things that were happening like just weren't that interesting. And like it might sound like I'm being super negative. As I said, I did enjoy the story as a whole. Like I would give it probably a 3 out of 5, which is like a decent score for me. Like I actually used the entire 5 points of a 5-point system. Like I recognize there's sort of a trend in the anime, manga, visual novel group to like say like, oh my god, like 7 out of 10 means it was unwatchable, right? Like I think my anime list is sort of plagued with this, but I try to use like actually the whole scale. So like a 3 out of 5 is like solid, like middle of the pack. But yeah, that's more or less where I'm at. Like the ending of the True like was really clever. Like I will give the writers sort of mad props for how they pulled that off. Alright, so is this the epilogue here? Are we done skipping? Looks like it. Eine Geschichte auf 1 May 2034 Fort? I don't know what's happening. Like, this is new content, so I assume that this is, like, supposed to be happening. But I'm very confused, and it's in German. And I don't speak German. Wait. Was that the epilogue? Huh. Oh wait, I can like check the ending list. Clear list. Clear list, here we go. Endings cleared. Okay, so that was Tsugumi Sora version epilogue. Okay, that was the epilogue. I'm very confused. Right? Because like the only ones I'm missing are the bad ends, right? I'm missing You bad, Sarah bad, and I don't know what 10 is. Oh, Tsugumi Sora bad. I'm missing Tsugumi Sora bad, You bad, and Sarah bad, all of which I decided I didn't care about. So that was the epilogue? Huh. Don't know if that was necessarily worth the 5 minutes of my life it took to get to it. Like, there was like 2 lines, and they were in German, so I didn't understand what they were saying. But not gonna let that mar my final impression of the game. So yeah, quality game. Would recommend to a fan of mysteries. Probably would not recommend to somebody who wasn't a fan of mysteries, just because of like how weak the non-mystery elements of the game were. But yeah, solid experience. I would recommend it to myself if it came down to that. If I had access to time travel. I mean, this probably wouldn't be the first thing I would recommend to myself, or the first thing I would do if I had access to time travel. Like, the first thing I would recommend to myself would probably be, like, lottery numbers, but Ever17 would be on the list somewhere. Now, I have said that, now that I'm done with Ever17, for my next project I was planning on doing foray, but that has been sort of pushed back to the end of May, like it's not out yet, or the English translation. Like, I said it was going to come out in May, right? And it is now May, and they're, like, the date they're currently giving is, like, end of May. So, I got a solid, like, at least 4 weeks before that comes out. So, I don't actually have something lined up for the interim. I might just play, like, random shorter things. If anyone has suggestions for anything they want to watch me play, I'm all ears. So, feel free to leave suggestions in the comment section. Because if left to my own devices, God knows what I'll end up playing. Probably something super degenerate. I might end up playing a pigeon dating simulator. It's entirely possible. But yeah, and as always, I've been Teo. This has been Ever17. Thank y'all for watching, and if you want to be, if you want to find out what I end up playing next, be sure to follow my channel so that you can, you know, have videos pop up in your feed or whatever. I don't know how YouTube works. What's a YouTube? What's an internet? I'm very confused. None of this makes sense. So, I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to ramble, so I'm gonna close the video. Because otherwise, like, I'm gonna start saying things that I don't mean. Like, I don't even want to think of examples. So yeah, I'm just gonna shut up now. Thank y'all for watching. It's been a pleasure. Peace.